The Super Bowl is on, everyone's screaming at the TV. Your coworkers are arguing about trades. Your family group chat is blowing up. And you feel absolutely nothing. If you've ever wondered why everyone seems obsessed with sports while you couldn't care less, you're not broken. You're not missing some fun gene. Your brain is just wired differently. And today, we're diving into the fascinating psychology of people who don't obsess over sports. First, let's get one thing clear. You're not as rare as you think. Recent studies show that nearly 30% of people under 25 actively dislike sports. And across all age groups, millions of people feel completely indifferent to athletic competitions. You're not a weirdo. You're part of a silent, often invisible minority. The reason it feels like you're alone: sports culture is loud. It's on every channel, dominates social media, and creates entire identities. Meanwhile, people who don't care simply don't talk about it. We're not forming "I don't watch sports" fan clubs. So if you've ever felt pressure to fake enthusiasm during game day or pretend you understand fantasy football, relax. There are millions of us nodding along while thinking about literally anything else. But here's the interesting part. Why don't we care? What's actually happening in our brains that makes us immune to sports fever? Let's break it down. Let's talk dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. When sports fans watch their team score, their brains flood with dopamine. It's the same neurochemical hit you get from eating chocolate, winning money, or getting likes on social media. For sports fans, every goal, touchdown, or home run is a mini celebration in their brain. But here's the thing, not everyone's dopamine system responds the same way. Research shows that dopamine receptor differences vary from person to person. Some people have receptors that fire intensely during social, competitive, or high-stimulation events, like sports. Others, their receptors barely register those experiences. If your brain doesn't release much dopamine watching strangers throw a ball, you're not defective. You're just neurochemically wired to get your rewards from other sources, maybe art, learning, nature, problem solving, or deep conversations. Translation: your brain isn't broken for not caring about sports. It's just optimized for different kinds of rewards.
Now let's talk about identity, because for many sports fans, their team is part of who they are. Psychologically, humans are tribal creatures. We evolved in groups and our brains crave belonging. Sports fandom taps into this perfectly. Instant community, shared identity, clear us versus them boundaries. When someone says, "I'm a Patriots fan," they're not just describing a hobby. They're claiming membership in a tribe. Their brain processes team victories as personal victories. But people who don't obsess over sports, we tend to form identity differently. Research on non-sports fans shows we're more likely to build identity around individual interests and skills, what we create or accomplish; values and beliefs, what we stand for, not which team we support; personal relationships, specific people, not mass fan communities; internal accomplishments, personal growth, learning, creativity. In other words, we don't need to borrow identity from a team because we're building it from within. This doesn't make us loners or antisocial. We just connect through different channels: book clubs, hobby groups, online communities, or one-on-one friendships. We're tribal too. We just pick different tribes. Here's another big psychological factor: the need for control. Sports fans emotionally invest in outcomes they have zero control over. They yell at TVs, wear lucky jerseys, perform superstitions, all while knowing deep down they can't influence the game. For some people, that powerlessness is part of the thrill. The uncertainty, the drama, the emotional roller coaster, it's entertainment. But for non-sports people, that lack of control feels pointless. Psychologically, many of us have what's called a high need for autonomy. We prefer investing time and emotion into things we can influence: our own projects, skills, relationships, or creative work. Watching strangers play a game we can't affect doesn't scratch that psychological itch. It's not that we're control freaks. We just prefer meaningful agency over passive observation. Plus, there's the emotional regulation piece. Sports create intense emotional swings: euphoria when your team wins, devastation when they lose. For people who prefer emotional stability, that volatility isn't fun, it's exhausting. We'd rather invest emotional energy into something we control, where our effort directly impacts the outcome. Let's talk about stimulation levels, because this is huge. Sports are designed to be high-stimulation entertainment: loud crowds, dramatic commentary, constant action, bright colors, emotional intensity. For many people, that's exciting. But not everyone's brain processes high stimulation the same way. People who don't care about sports often score higher in what psychologists call sensory processing sensitivity. Our brains get overwhelmed by too much noise, chaos, and emotional intensity. What sports fans experience as exciting energy, we experience as sensory overload. It's not fun, it's draining. There's also a preference difference in how we engage with the world. Sports are broad and surface level by nature. Who wins, who scores, what's the ranking? It's social, competitive, and outcome focused. But non-sports people often prefer depth over breadth. We'd rather spend 2 hours deep diving into one topic, a documentary, a book, a craft project, a meaningful conversation, than skimming the surface of multiple games. We're not antisocial. We're just differently social. We connect through deep, focused engagement rather than shared surface-level excitement. And honestly, that's valid. The world needs both. Sports fans bring energy, community, and passion. Non-sports people bring depth, reflection, and focus. Neither is better, just different. Let's address the elephant in the room, the pressure. If you don't care about sports, you've probably faced judgment. What's wrong with you? You're no fun. How can you not watch the game? It's exhausting. Here's the truth. Society treats sports fandom as a social requirement, especially for men. Not caring about sports can feel socially isolating, like you're missing the password to certain social circles. But psychologically, forcing yourself to fake interest creates what's called cognitive dissonance, the mental stress of pretending to value something you don't. It's draining and inauthentic. Here's what non-sports people need to hear. You don't owe anyone fake enthusiasm. Your time, attention, and emotional energy are yours. If sports don't bring you joy, you're not obligated to care just because society expects it. Real connection comes from authenticity, not pretending to love something to fit in. The right people will appreciate you for your actual interests, not your ability to fake sports knowledge.
So here's the bottom line. If you don't obsess over sports, you're not missing out. You're not broken. You're not boring. Your brain is simply wired to find meaning, connection, and reward through different channels. Maybe it's creativity, learning, nature, relationships, or solo pursuits, and that's completely valid. Sports fans get their dopamine from competition and community. You get yours elsewhere. Neither is superior, just different ways of being human. The world is big enough for both, so stop apologizing for not caring about the game. Own your indifference. Your brain knows what it needs. All right, I want to hear from you in the comments. If you don't care about sports, what do you obsess over instead? Books, music, cooking? Tell me what lights up your brain. And if you are a sports fan watching this out of curiosity, did this help you understand your non-sports friends better? Can we all just agree to let people like what they like? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment. If this video made you feel seen, hit that like button and subscribe for more psychology deep dives into why we are the way we are. Smash the notification bell so you don't miss the next video, and share this with a friend who's tired of pretending to care about March Madness. Thanks for watching. Remember, you don't have to love sports to be interesting. You're already enough. See you in the next one.